back, and there it is. Yay. Hey, everybody. I am really excited because I think support is one of the most important things for all of us, whether you're someone that's just starting out or whether you are someone that's lost, like our Tracy, who's lost over 100 pounds since she started with Nutracelle. The most important thing is really having other people that are on the same journey, that are cheering for you and that know exactly what you're doing in order to get to where you want to be and are really providing that support each step of the way to help you get there. So that's what these support groups are all about. And I'm really excited about this one, because one of the things that I really notice when I see your guys' chats and your comments is that there's so much confusion and misinformation out there. And I want to be able to bust some myths tonight and make it really easy to understand what's going on with our bodies. So let's get started here. And I got to figure out in our little software here where my presentation is. I uploaded it a little earlier. There we go. There we go. Can everybody see that okay? Excellent. Excellent. So if anyone has any trouble with their audio, or if your internet's not really great, don't worry. We're going to be emailing you this. So if you miss a little bit, don't get concerned at all. You'll get an email automatically with the recording here. And we've got a few people helping to answer questions, but if I miss your questions in the chat along the side, I'm really sorry. Just ask again, and I'll try to make sure that I'm able to answer your questions as we go along. So, hey, everybody, welcome to How to Lose Weight, our first support group. So I thought I would start by saying everything that we've been told is wrong. Everything about weight loss that we've been told is wrong, and it's really not about the calories, and it's really not about exercise. And so I'm going to start back at the fat cell level, and we're going to look at how it is we actually gain weight. What is fat? Where does the fat go? How does it get there? And then what happens when we burn that fat off? And that might sound a little bit technical, but it's really important if you're trying to get healthier, if you're trying to lose that last 10 or 15 or 20 pounds, or if you have a longer journey to go and you have over 100 pounds to lose, you really need to understand what's happening with your body in order to understand how the choices you make impact your body. It's not enough to just say, well, eat a little bit less. So for those of you that don't know, my name is Melanie Wildman. I am the founder and CEO of Nutracelle. I'm also a weight loss surgery patient. So I used to weigh over 100 pounds more than I do now, and I've maintained my weight for almost 10 years. It hasn't always been easy, and as anyone that's had weight loss surgery knows, it's not taking the easy way out. And I know a lot of people really think that. For me, being able to maintain my weight and being able to stop weight regain has been about transforming how I eat and my relationship with food. And that means not just understanding the science behind it, but also really changing my emotional relationship with food. And we're going to touch a little bit on that tonight. And of course, as our support groups move forward, we're going to touch way more in depth into some of these areas. So I love this quote. I love Oscar Wilde, but I really love this quote. Success is a science. If you have the conditions, you get the result. And I think that is such a great way of looking at what we're exploring tonight. And that is, if you understand the fundamentals, then you have the pieces you need to be successful long term. So how do we gain fat, right? We think about it as this inert thing that happens to us, right? You eat too much, and then you eat too much again, and then the scale gets a little bit heavier and your clothes get a little bit tighter, and you start to gain weight. And that's true, but that's only one tiny, tiny little part of the picture that's going on. So how many of you, if you want to be at home and kind of do a show of hands, how many of you have been told, or maybe even still believe, that calories in equals calories out? In other words, if you eat way more than you spend in energy, you're going to gain weight. and that if you need to lose weight, you need to eat less, eat fewer calories overall, and then like magic, your body is going to help you to lose weight, right? All about calories in, calories out. Well, get ready, because you're going to be prepared to have your mind blown, because this is not how our bodies work at all. This is a myth. So I want you to think about your own life. There's 365 days in a year. The average person eats about 2,200 calories. So the average person in 1 year, you, consumes about 1 million calories. 1 million calories in a year. That's a lot of calories. In order to maintain our weight, if calories in and energy out are to stay balanced, we would have to regulate what we're eating every day on average with a precision that's greater than less than 0.5%. So I said that wrong. With a precision greater than 99.5%. In other words, we can only vary how many calories we take in on average by less than 0.5% if the amount of calories coming in always equals the amount of calories that are going out. And that kind of precision far exceeds what any of us can really monitor in our day-to-day lives, right? You have, breakfast early, you got to run out the door, you got to get your kids to school, you got to make supper, maybe you're watching TV or you're watching Netflix at the end of the night, you get a little bit hungry. All of these things happen. So think of it this way. And I'm curious what you guys think. How many extra calories do you think you would need to eat each day to become obese if you started at the age of 20, by the time you were 40, 20 years later, how many extra calories would you need to eat a day to become clinically obese from being normal weight? Somebody's saying 1,000 calories. That's a good answer. Anybody else got a guess? Let's grab some water here. Anybody else have a guess? We got 1,000 calories. Everybody's pretty quiet tonight. All right. The answer is actually, I'm hitting the wrong button. The answer is actually 21. So over the course of 20 years, you would only have to eat 21 fewer calories each day to stay normal weight compared to becoming obese, if calories in and calories out are accurate. That's pretty mind-blowing. That's the equivalent of about 3 large strawberries each day. We're not talking about very much food that can make a really big difference if calories in versus calories out. But here's something else I want you all to think about. We actually eat now, in 2017, 570 calories more a day per individual than we did back in 1977. So I just got done showing you that in order to become obese, if calories in equals calories out, we would only have to eat 21 calories more a day. Yet, as a society, on average, adults are eating 570 more calories every single day than we were in 1977. That's incredible. That's about a Wendy's quarter pounder with cheese every day on top of what we were eating back in 77. So that's a lot of calories. Now remember, a calorie in, energy out. If those two things are always the same, then that means every adult in North America on average should weigh 476 pounds today. And we don't. We don't. The reason why we don't is because while calories are important, they're only one part of the picture. And I wanted to show you, I wanted to reset the way you're really thinking about calories. Oh, I need to eat less in order to lose weight. I need to deprive myself in order to lose weight. I have to exercise so much more in order to burn off, the junk that I just had or the muffin that I just had, right? I want you to reset your brain a little bit and realize that if it was really true that a calorie is a calorie, then we would all be walking around at closer to 500 pounds than normal, we're on average 2 out of 3 of us are overweight or obese, but we're nowhere near 476 pounds each as a society. So So overall, as a society in North America, we've avoided 98% of the weight gain that we should have gained if calories were all that mattered. If calories were all that was in the equation, then math tells us straight up that's not possible. So again, calories in, calories out. You guys are looking there at all the different diets, diet books, diet advice on how you can change what you eat. If it was just a question of calories in and calories out, then every diet should work. But they don't. 95 to 97% of diets result in weight regain after reducing calories. 95 to 97%. This is not a question of willpower. This is not a question of putting down the fork. This is not a question of personal failure. What's going on is the food we eat today is making us overweight. The food we eat, and I'm going to show you how and why the food we eat actually makes us hungrier. But more importantly, the food we eat makes us store fat. And I'm going to show you exactly how it works so that you can look at your food very, very differently when you get up for breakfast tomorrow morning. So if we want to understand how to lose weight, we got to start back at the beginning. We got to figure out how we gain weight in the first place. So what is a calorie, right? We call them these little things. There's like that joke, calories are these little gremlins that sneak into your closet at night and shrink your clothes. But really, a calorie is just a unit of energy. And all it is the amount of energy that's needed to raise water 1 degree. That's all it is. So if you live in the US, it's 1 degree Celsius. So for Canadians, that's all a calorie is. You boil some water. If it goes up 1 degree, that burns 1 calorie. That's how we measure the inherent energy that's in food. Now, is your body a pot of water that we're boiling? No, obviously it's not. So there's a little bit more to this tale than just this energy that's being burnt off in our food and really how our bodies are working. So 1 pound of fat contains roughly 3,500 calories. So in other words, you could raise 1 degree Celsius of water if you were to be burning it in order to you would have to burn 3,500 calories, and that would be 1 pound of fat. Another way of looking at it is if you think about energy out, so walking. To burn 1 pound of fat, you would have to walk on average 35 miles. To burn 5 pounds of fat, that's 150 miles of straight walking. So you're talking about really large physical expenditures for really small amounts of fat burning on your body. Now, I don't want anyone to think for a minute that I'm not a huge fan of exercise. I am a huge fan of exercise for a whole bunch of reasons. It's good for your skin. It's shown in some studies to be almost as effective as medicine for depression. It's good for your energy levels. It's good for all sorts of things. Being able to breathe. It's good at helping with sleep apnea. It's even good for your sex life. Exercise is really, really good for you. But the one thing that exercise is not very effective at is helping you burn off that fat. The reason why is this slide. If for each pound you have to walk 35 miles to burn off 1 pound of fat, you're not going to get there by exercise alone. You cannot out-exercise a crap diet. You just can't. What you put in your body is how healthy your body is going to be. It's like the father of medicine, Hippocrates, said, "Let thy food be thy medicine, and let thy medicine be thy food." So what is our food? Well, humans, we break it down into 3 major parts. The first part is protein, second is fat, and then the third is sort of everything else, and that's carbohydrates. Now, this is kind of important. I'm going to throw a little bit of math. I'm not going to make it super complicated, but just a little. Protein. So protein has got 4 calories. The great thing about protein, though, is studies have shown that it takes around 25% to as much as 30% of those calories actually get burnt by your body when you're digesting the protein. So in other words, in order to access those 4 calories, you have to burn 1 calorie. So you're getting a net of 3 calories whenever you're having protein. Fat is 9 calories. This is where this crazy low-fat diet phase came from, because somebody looked at it, not say anything bad about guys, it's probably a guy, and looked at it and went, fat has 9 calories. Therefore, fat must make you fat because carbohydrates only have 4 calories. So if you replace all the fat with carbohydrates, like magic, you're eating 40% less food, 40% less calories. Therefore, you're going to weigh 40%. You're going to burn out 40% of that fat that you're carrying around. Turns out we've been trying to do this for 50 years now. And instead of, as a society, as we lowered the amount of fat in our diet, instead of us all getting slimmer, you guys know the story, obesity's exploded. Our kids are getting type 2 diabetes. 2 out of every 3 women are actively trying to lose weight right now. And none of us consider ourselves to be dieters because we know that's not healthy. It's so frustrating. So we've been told this crazy lie that if we just replace the fat with these lower caloric macronutrients like carbohydrates and to a lesser degree like protein, then somehow we'll lose weight. And I'm going to show you why that's so wrong and what the science has to say about it. So aside from the calorie difference, though there's 9 in fat, 4 in protein, and 4 in carbohydrates, the most important difference between them is that carbohydrates raise your blood sugar. I'm going to say that again. If you took a spoonful of sugar, so just like the song, a spoonful of sugar, if you took a spoonful of sugar, your blood sugar would spike immediately. If you ate toast, your blood sugar would also spike immediately. I don't know if you guys know this, but on the glycemic index, Skittles is actually a little bit lower on the glycemic index than whole wheat bread, than 2 slices of whole wheat bread. That's how fast your body metabolizes carbohydrates. So when you think of whole wheat bread, when you think of whole grains, you're thinking of, oh, I'm getting fiber, it's healthier for me than white bread. But the truth is, it's actually not. It's going to raise your blood sugar just as much as those Skittles. So you've got raising blood sugars with carbohydrates. Then with protein, you have almost no effect on blood sugar. Tons of studies showing that protein actually maintains your blood pressure or your blood sugars over a long period of time. And then fat has no impact on your blood sugars. So what is it about these carbohydrates? What are they doing to our body? And how does that fit into how we actually gain those fat molecules? Well, your body at any given time can only store about 500 grams of carbohydrate in your muscles and liver, okay? It's called glycogen or glucose. And so what the body does is it immediately converts what you're eating, the carbohydrates, into glucose and glycogen. So when you eat those carbohydrates, there's a big chemical changes that are going on inside your body right now. The first thing is when your body, when your blood sugar increases, your body releases insulin. And insulin is a hormone that brings your blood sugar back down again. So we're going to talk very briefly about 3 really important hormones to remember. One is insulin, one is ghrelin, and one is leptin. Now, insulin is the hormone that brings your blood sugar back down, also helps your body store fat. Ghrelin is the hormone that makes you feel hungry. And I always remember ghrelin by thinking of it as a gremlin, so one of the bad gremlins. So that's ghrelin. Ghrelin actually tells your body to store fat. It also increases cravings, and it tells you that you're hungry. And then there's leptin. And leptin is the hormone that makes you feel full and tells you you don't need another bite. So when your blood sugar spikes, the first of those hormones, insulin, gets released. Really interesting thing about insulin is we think, oh diabetics, obviously they're going to die if they don't get insulin. So that's why they take insulin. But we don't really think about what happens to the sugars in that blood. Well, what happens to the sugar in the blood is insulin actually binds it. It binds that glycogen with a fatty acid and creates a triglyceride. And I'm going to show you a little bit about why that is so important. Insulin, every time your body has to use insulin, so every time you eat sugar or you eat carbohydrates and your body releases insulin, it also makes leptin, our fullness signal, less effective. So our body doesn't listen to leptin when we have a lot of insulin. And guess what else it does? It increases Ghrellin's effect. So our little gremlins that come out at night, that's exactly what's going on when you're in the kitchen and you're hungry and you're snacky and you're watching, you're watching television and you just want something to eat. That's ghrelin. And that ghrelin is telling your body to stuff it full of carbohydrates. The last thing that insulin does is it actually converts that glucose right into fat. So remember back a couple slides ago when I showed you that your body can only hold on to about 500 grams of glucose at any given time. So or 500 calories worth of glucose at any given time. So think about that for a minute. If you eat 1,000 calories and lots of those are carbohydrates, where does the rest of those calories go? Well, the answer is your body turns it into glucose immediately in your bloodstream, releases insulin. The insulin turns that sugar, that glucose, into glycogen, which then binds and creates a triglyceride. And I know these are lots of words, but this is how I think of triglyceride. A triglyceride is like a triceratops. That's how I think of it. Triceratops. You get these big dinosaur monsters inside your fat cell. So now you've got triglyceride / triceratops, and they're huge. And they form inside that fat cell. So the glycogen gets in there on the one side, and then your fatty acids get in there, and then boom, all of a sudden you've got this dinosaur that's literally inside your fat cell. And they're huge, and they can't get back out. They're stuck. That's the problem with triglycerides. If you've ever been to the doctor, a family doctor, and your doctor's done just a regular blood panel and told you your triglycerides are high, 9 times out of 10, they will tell you to cut down on the amount of fat in your diet. Why? Because triglycerides are the amount of fat cells that are in your blood serum, right? When they take your blood, they measure your number of triglycerides. Because they're thinking that's fat, they're thinking if you eat less fat, magically these triceratops will shrink. That is not what happens. Those triceratops are so big that they can't get back out. So when your body needs energy, it cannot get the energy from your fat cells. What your body does instead when it needs energy is it tells you to eat, tells you you're hungry and you need more glucose. So if you eat 2,000 calories of toast, right, you need fuel. Let's say 1,000 of those calories get used as glucose through the day, as immediate fuel. The other 1,000 of those calories, though, are going to turn into triceratops, and they're going to get trapped inside your fat cells. And that's why you're going to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with the munchies, because your body's telling you need to refuel. Your body is telling you with those hormones we talked about, the gremlins, the ghrelin, it's telling you to eat again. It's telling you you're hungry. That's what's going on. So if you look at your day and you've been munching on crap all day long, on easy to eat carbs, you're going to have, if you ate 3,000 calories in one day, half of those are going to wind up trapped, and they're going to turn into triceratops inside your fat cells. And the other half is what your body gets for energy. That's why you feel so tired. When your blood sugars drop and your body is storing that energy, it's storing it away. Your body can't use it. So not much wonder we feel exhausted at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Not much wonder when we wake up in the morning, we don't feel refreshed. We feel lethargic and tired and cranky and stressed out. And we feel all of those things because our body is starving itself. The irony is that we're not getting the fuel our body needs. Instead, we're packing it on our bums and on our bellies and everywhere else, and our bodies don't get to use it for fuel. So when you think about cravings, it really is hormonal. So if if when my husband says, "Are you hormonal, honey?" and I'm like, "Stab, stab, stab," it really is coming from cravings, and those cravings really truly are hormonal. It might not be that time of the month, but it's definitely what you're feeding your body, and we don't want you feeding these gremlins. Your body, once it gets used to glucose for its fuel, it loves glucose. It loves it because it's easy. It doesn't have to work for it. It's the path of least resistance. So your body wants more and more glucose. Your body wants you to continue to eat carbohydrates. So remember this, those carbohydrates have now made your fat cells bigger. Your fat cells actually are genetically programmed to divide. So once they get to a certain size, that's how you get more and more fat cells. But that's the reason why you can't ever get rid of fat cells once they're made. So I don't know how many of you know this. It's kind of fascinating. So as you gain weight, your body is actually creating more and more fat cells. It's part of the reason why it's harder to maintain that weight loss afterwards, because you've got all these little empty fat cells. If you start eating carbohydrates again, guess what's going to happen? You're going to create more triceratops, and you can fill up those fat cells really quick. So then this leads us to, well, what happens if I eat protein and fat? Well, your blood sugar stays stable. You don't release insulin. Your calories form fatty acids. So the calories you can't use right in that moment forms fatty acids, which you can use for fuel. So here's an idea to give you the difference between the triceratops and the fatty acids. Fatty acids are tiny, and they're able to pass through your fat cell membrane as your body needs it. That's why if you start eating a lot of protein and you cut out your carbohydrates and you cut out your sugar, one of the things that you'll notice in a few weeks is you start to sleep way better. And the reason why you're getting that deep sleep is your body's not trying to awaken for fuel every 3 hours when your blood sugar drops, because you're no longer, you're using those fatty acids inside your fat cells for energy. So you're actually burning fat while you're sleeping. So there's the difference. If you have your fat cell that's being powered on protein and fat, you've got tiny little fatty acids that your body can use for energy as it needs it. Over on the other side, if you're feeding your fat cells carbohydrates, they're forming triceratops that are getting trapped inside that fat cell until the fat cell becomes so big it splits into 2 more fat cells. I don't know about you guys, but that's not what I want. So in the presence of insulin, carbohydrates equal fat. Without insulin, the fat that you eat and that you have on your body turns into energy. And that's the energy you need to feel good, to exercise, to sleep, to, have to be not stressed out when you're dealing with your family or your job or, everyday life. So when you're looking at foods and you're thinking, well, that food's really high in fat, that's really fatty foods. Those aren't fatty foods. The foods that are fatty foods are the carbohydrates, the sugars, even the fruits that are really high in sugars. And we'll talk about this in another support group, but the fruit we eat today is not natural fruit. The fruit we eat today looks completely different than even 50 years ago. It is packed full of sugar with less fiber than it ever used to have. That's why I stick to berries. I don't eat apples. I certainly don't eat bananas, because they're high in sugars and they will spike your blood sugar. The foods that you see here are a perfect example of stuff to stay away from. These are the foods that will cause weight gain. So I know one of the questions that we had on a great little Facebook chat was, do calories still matter? And the answer is absolutely. Circling back to the very beginning of our support group today, calories still matter. They're just not the whole picture. You could eat nothing but fat and protein, and if you ate too many calories, your body would eventually store so many of those fatty acids inside your cells that you would gain weight. So you can still gain weight from having too much fat, too many calories coming in. The difference is The reason why a low carbohydrate and a high protein diet has been shown over and over and over again, in study after study after study after study, is not because there's something particularly magical about fat. It's not because there's something particularly magical about protein, although there are some pretty amazing things. It's that we feel full. When you start to replace carbohydrates with protein, you feel full, and you feel a lot more full. So not only are you only burning, you're only getting 3 calories out of the 4 with protein, but that protein itself helps you to feel full for hours and hours and hours. In fact, 441 fewer calories spontaneously for people that add in at least 30% of their caloric intake for protein. I want to give a word of warning too. I see this a lot, and that is people that are following a keto or quasi-keto diet. I'm a huge fan of fats. I'm a huge fan of healthy fats. There's tons of studies to show how important it is, everything from fat-soluble vitamins to satiety. All of these things are really important with a high-fat diet. But remember this. The easiest and fastest way that researchers have to make any mammal gain weight in the quickest amount of time is to give them high carbohydrate and high fat diets. And that's what our modern food is today. The problem with saying all fats are great and just eat a high fat diet is that we're surrounded by unhealthy carbohydrates. And so as soon as you're bringing in a bunch of those 9 calories for every gram of fat, and you're adding to it all of that sugar, guess what you're doing? You're actually creating a mechanism to store even more fat in your fat cells. So does a keto diet work? Damn, yes, it works great. Does a keto diet work great for someone that's having some carbohydrates on an intermittent way, you know, birthday cake now and again, you know, you slip a little bit here, you slip a little bit there. That is the fastest way to gain weight because you're bringing in so many more calories. So that's my warning on keto is if you're going to do it, you really got to do it. We're going to talk a little bit about keto and protein because there's some mythology around that in another support group if you guys want. But be really careful overall. You really want to be looking at how much protein and how much fiber are you getting in. If you gain weight like I did, then you have a resistance to insulin. What that means is your body actually has to use even more insulin than someone that's never had a weight issue, someone that's never gained weight. And so that means we're storing even more fat than someone who's normal weight. It's one of the reasons why normal weight people who, you know, never have a weight problem, never put on weight, can eat anything that they want, is because their bodies are much more sensitive to insulin. So they're just not storing that fat in the same way that I am. If I start eating carbohydrates, I can't stop eating carbohydrates. And I notice right away my weight starts to go right back on. It depends what you mean on low-fat dairy. Oh, low-fat dairy. There's quite a bit of research on dairy and low-fat dairy. If you choose to have dairy for your kids, give them full-fat dairy. So that's where they're going to get their macronutrients from. That's where they're going to be able to absorb their micronutrients when they have enough fat in it, and it's more satisfying. If you're giving kids skim milk has a lot of sugar in it. It's going to spike their blood sugars really, really quickly. So the best thing that you can do is whole cheeses and whole milks. And if you can buy local, then that's always better. But anything that's low fat is just not a good idea. It's a good idea to eat real food. And no. And for kids that, whenever we're talking about our own diets or about kids' diets or about what we're eating ourselves, it's really important to think in terms of the whole picture, right? And any one thing on its own isn't going to change everything. So if your child loves, whole milk, or if your child loves, skim milk, and everything else is going pretty good, then, let them have that part of it. But overall, if you're looking at trying to help kids eat healthier, in our household, we had one of our daughters who started to gain weight, and then we had another son that's really, really skinny, and then another one. And we wanted to be really careful about not shaming one of our kids or making them feel like they can't have this when everyone else can have that. So what we did as a family is made sure that there was lots of protein treats at any given time for kids, and that it was a household decision to forbid things like the cereals and, the popcorn and all of that kind of stuff. And, the kids were able to grow out of, that period that we were concerned about where they were really gaining weight. So that's my, biggest advice is that, if you're able to make those changes yourself as a mom and with your whole household, then it makes it a lot easier to make sure that you're having a healthy lifestyle for your kids too and your whole family. But yeah, let her have yummy milk, especially if she loves it. So if you feel like you can eat more than you used to, if you're noticing that you feel hungrier than maybe you used to be a few years back and you're starting to put on the weight, if you feel like you were doing good for a while but you're starting to go back to old habits, if you feel like your weight seems to be getting worse instead of getting better, if you're starting to feel like you're out of control, then we can turn this around and we can do it together. One of the great things about Nutracelle is that we're not asking you to give up carbohydrates. We're not asking you to give up pizza. We're not asking you to give up cupcakes. You don't have to give any of that stuff up. What makes it so miraculous, at least for me, is that I get to have my chocolate cupcakes. I get to have my pizza. I get to have my coffee mocha first thing in the morning, and I feel full. And I feel full for hours. And that's when I don't have to worry about willpower. That's when I don't have to sit there and try and fight my cravings or try and wish that, I wasn't going to eat that. I love pizza. So step one is really just to admit that you can't control sugar and carbs any more than you can control physiologically what's going on inside your body. You can't control how much ghrelin your body's producing. You can't control when your insulin is peaking and how much it's going to peak. You can't control whether your body's going to respond very quickly to leptin or not. Your body's going to do all of those things subconsciously. But what you can control is what you're putting in your body. And you know that the second you put in sugar, the second you put in carbs, you're just like me. I put those things in my body and I am out of control again. I am hungry. I'm waking up at night hungry. I'm craving things during the day. It starts a cycle where my hunger goes from here to here. And I don't want to live like that. I hate it when I feel like that. And I know that's how you guys are feeling. So you got to cut out the sugar and the carbs, just like a cigarette smoker. Just like a smoker can't just have a few cigarettes. You got to cut it out because your body is going to react to it. And it's going to start storing that fat and telling you that you're hungry. And you've got to crowd out the sugar. If I just start telling myself, no, I'm not going to eat that. I'm not going to eat this. I'm going to be super good this week. I don't know about you guys, but that's when I'm worst. I'm the absolute worst when I start telling myself I'm not going to do this. But when I turn it around and I say, I'm going to do this. I love making all the stuff on protein treats. Part of the reason why I love cooking these things and coming up with these things is because then I'm doing something that's really positive, that's creative, that's something I enjoy, and I'm making food that tastes really delicious and yummy that I feel good about. So I'm not depriving myself. I'm actually giving myself a new habit that's fun and pleasurable because it tastes really, really good. And more importantly, it helps me to stay full. So instead of saying, I'm not going to have sugar anymore, start saying, I'm going to be replacing sugar with all of these yummy things that I'm going to get. Just go to the recipe section. Just go to the recipe box on Nutracelle.com. Click on recipes. There's everything in there. And then keep high protein foods available at all times. all times. This morning was crazy getting the kids out of the house. I went and grabbed my, they're like Pop-Tarts, kind of, well, not Pop-Tarts, I guess. They're like Eggos, except I just do them all up in a pan with our protein pancakes, and I do them in the oven on a sheet thing, on a cookie sheet. And then I pull them out and I cut them up and I put them in the freezer with the wax paper still, or parchment paper still between them. And then I pop them in the toaster. So this morning I had no time to make a decent breakfast for the kids. Boom, there they go. They've got protein pancakes out of the toaster, and they're eating it as we're rushing them to school in the car. So, you know, even when life is hectic, when you have those high protein foods available and they're just around anytime, then even if you're that crazy mom that's like driving your kids to school wearing, I swear I was wearing my dinosaur pajamas still this morning because I started working at 4 in the morning and then totally lost track of time. Horrible, horrible mom. But there we are. The kids are getting protein. We're getting out the door. And that is literally the secret to being able to beat sugar, is to just keep all of that protein stuff around everywhere you need it. And then step number 3 is give yourself 4 weeks. Give yourself 4 weeks to detox from all that sugar, to start training your body to start burning those fatty acids so that your body can use your own fat for fuel, and give yourself that full 4 weeks. And then last but not least is every time you want to eat sugar and carbs, I want you to picture this session and picture those triceratops and whatever it is in that carb, whether it's like toast that you want to have, whatever it is that you're thinking about, just remember that as soon as you put it in your body, it is going to transform into triceratops, and they're stuck in there and they're not going to get out. So that's my big tip of the day, triceratops and gremlins. Aw, see, that's so awesome. That's even my 18-year-old who's at university now. It's so amazing watching her as she grows older. And one of the things that she does is exactly like me. She starts every morning out with her coffee protein and takes it to university with her. And that's what she has for her lunch. She just takes it with her. Doesn't cost her anything. She's not eating out. She's not spending any money on stuff. She doesn't have to pack a lunch because she's 18 and doesn't want to have to take time to do any of that stuff. So yeah, it's all about making it really convenient, making it easy for our kids. Yeah, that is a really great question, Lori. So you absolutely do count the carbs, but always minus the fiber. So if there's 12 grams of carbohydrates and there's 10 grams of fiber, that means that there's really only 2 grams of net carbs, and it's those net carbs that you count. So your fiber, if we go back to that first slide, your fiber actually doesn't count for calories, and it doesn't spike your blood sugar. Yeah. And I've uploaded, I don't know if you guys can see it or not. You should be able to see it. I uploaded some documents there. I have a little cheat sheet with the list on it. And then we're going to be, as we do these, I've got some really great guides for you guys on everything from lists of low sugar fruits to low sugar vegetables to how to make substitutions. So we're going to be sharing those with you as we go through the support groups. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so if you click at the icon on top of the little person picture on the top right hand of your screen there, if you click on that, then you can download it. Quick question, is 2 scoops, it depends on which flavor you have. The calories are a little bit different per flavor. So if you see, say, 210 calories for 50 grams, about, say, on the natural, I just grab a bag of natural, actually. Hold on. Okay. Let's see, what have we got here? 190, and that's about 1.5 scoops. So the nutrition panel is about 1.5 scoops. Yeah, that's what I do. A couple things. One is that as you do it, you get used to eating a little bit less. And as you get used to physically eating less, your body will become more full on a smaller amount. So there's sort of a chicken and egg thing that's going on a little bit. If you're having just the shake and you're finding it's not quite enough, I would actually add even another scoop to the shake. So I'll have two scoops in my shake in the morning with the kids, and my daughter takes 3. So she takes 3 scoops, and then that gets her through lunch. Yes, you will absolutely. We're going to do a whole session. I think this is a really important one on exercise, because there's so much mythology out there, and people they get caught because you think you're doing the right thing with exercising, and you are, but when you're not prepared for what happens to your body, your hunger actually increases and your ghrelin actually increases when you start exercising. And if you're not prepared for that, you don't realize what's going on, and your hunger just increases. Your portion sizes go up, and your frequency that you feed yourself goes up. And then there's also some really great research that shows your willpower. You actually think because you're doing something good by exercising, then it's a little bit more okay to cheat. And the cheating, or the food that you wouldn't normally have, is causes way more weight gain than what you've just burnt off exercising. So there's a lot going on there. What you can do when you're exercising more, once you know that that's what's happening, is you double down on the protein. So you really want to give your body the protein that you need to repair. So if you notice you're hungry, just keep feeding that body protein, but be really careful that you're really trying to get just protein, not a lot of fluffy stuff, not a lot of dessert stuff. Like, hit a real shake, have some real chicken. Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions? These are good. All right, you guys. Well, thank you for joining me on our first support group. I hope you all found it helpful. I'm really excited to do another one with you guys again. And I'm going to set up a poll. We're going to do a poll, send it out to everybody. You'll get an email with the recording for this one, and a poll asking you for which topic you want to do the next support group. So, all right, you guys. Have an awesome night tonight. And if you have any questions, send an email in at info@Nutracelle.com. We are going to totally do more of these ones. And remember this: cheat with a protein treat, right? Cheat with a protein treat. That's how you're going to get rid of the sugar. That's how you're going to get rid of the carbs. All right, you guys. I will see you all soon.